Next one's kind of a big one. Harris picks Walz. Tim Walz of Minnesota. Not Waltz. Walz. Yeah, Tim Walz.
Well,
of Minnesota.
technically, if we're gonna read it from the original place it was
Volz?
from, which would have either been like Germany, Poland or
maybe,
Austria, it
Volz.
would have been Volz.
Volz. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Harris picks Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota.
Paul Walz.
Paul. You know, I like Paul Wall.
Paul Wall's kind of cool.
Yeah, he's a Texas rapper. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Paul Wall.
Pow wow.
He's still rapping. He was on. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I know what you're about to say.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah, this has kind of gotten a lot of people in a tizzy because a lot of people are like a tizzy. It means like it's caused an uproar. It's caused a stir.
I
don't know.
This is like prohibition era like speak.
I don't know. Is that not people don't say?
I have never heard that word in my life.
Okay, it's
been
a word.
On the tizzy.
Yeah, you got all in a tizzy.
No, I have never heard of that. Maybe I'm just.
Am I making this up? No, you're gaslighting me. It's real.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just Israel right now, just gaslighting the fuck out of you.
Yeah, highly excited, distracted, state of mind.
Where does it come from? Where's
like flustered?
Oh,
like the etymology of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me go to the
like 20s or 30s or something like that.
Let me go to the etymology dictionary.
While he's doing that,
while you do that, while I do this, you talk about Tim Walz's record.
Walz, I actually don't know too much about him. Minnesota governor. From what I remember, he had like declared
1922.
1922. I called it.
You
20s
called
or 30s.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, the Prohibition era.
Yeah, American
God
English
damn,
colloquial, a word of uncertain origin, perhaps related to slang. Tizzy, which is sixpence piece. Corruption, a name for the coin. Yada yada. Yeah, doesn't matter.
I got it though.
But
from what I understand about Walz, is that did he declare martial law?
Yeah, he did
Minnesota,
during the
BLM.
Yeah, during the George Floyd era that summer of 2020, he declared. Yeah, like so
which is not a good look.
Let's back it up a second. So yeah, he's done a lot. He gutted a bill that would like give nurses more power. I forget. I still this is when we go into these stories half cocked, but he's on paper very progressive. He's been a teacher most of his life.
China.
Yeah, he's been a teacher I think for a lot of his life. He's considered pretty progressive as far as is a pretty liberal Democrat, pretty progressive as far as Democrats go. And so I think that's kind of why he's picked, is kind of to counterbalance the right-wing cop persona that Harris has. You have this kind of fuzzy teddy bear uncle, teacher, kind of progressive nice guy, and he's everyone loves him. He's been really great to Minnesota in terms of the teachers union. He's very pro-choice. He's got a lot of he ticks a lot of progressive boxes. But if you peel back the surface a little bit, he's gutted a lot of bills that would help a lot of these programs. He's the one who called in the National Guard to enact martial law during the BLM protests of the 1920s, 2020. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, he's more progressive, just like Cori Bush is more progressive than her primary challenger. Tim Walz is more progressive than I think anybody else that was on the short list. Certainly more so than Mark Kelly or Newsom. Yeah, any of the other people that were on that short list. Shapiro, yeah, Shapiro was a pretty hardcore Zionist who was pretty awful. There was a story that he helped cover up a murder. This is the best pick that she could have done. We just want to make it clear that we're not standing for Tim Walz or Kamala Harris for what that's worth.
I also I think we want to go a little bit into this while we're already here. Is what was the term that you used earlier that had
coconut pilled? Yes,
this is getting people coconut pilled.
Yeah, so we were talking shortly before recording of a lot of leftists and this Harris fiasco as of 3 weeks ago or whatever is causing kind of a rift among left-ish people, and I keep saying left-ish because I don't want to say leftist, because leftists to me has a connotation of being anti-capitalist, and you can't be an anti-capitalist and support Harris Walz, that ticket. So socialists and communists don't support Harris Walz for a number of reasons, capitalism and their economic philosophy chief among them, but also their commitment and sustaining of the genocide in Palestine. So Harris and Walz are pro genocide. They're going to continue to sustain and commit money and weapons and munitions to this genocide. So we're not going to support them. And it's pretty much that simple. I think we're both pretty vocal about we're supporting Claudia Garcia and Karina Garcia and Claudia de la Cruz of the PSL party. That's who we're voting for in the national election come November. we're not supporting Harris and Walz because they don't share our ideals. And that's kind of what the whole voting thing is. You vote the person that shares you most closely your ideals. And so this pick, and Walz has now kind of further defined that. It was started with Harris, and now it's being further defined by this progressive kind of candidate, Walz, this progressive VP pick, of kind of separating real leftists from like the fair weather kind of leftists, right? Everybody had coconuts, these social dems or whatever, these people that had like coconuts and the Palestinian flag and watermelons and the coconut flags in their Twitter bios, and they were kind of pro-Palestine. They were kind of they were pretty vocal about not supporting Biden. And then when Harris comes in, they immediately fall in line, and now they're like, we got to support Harris. So the vote for third party. Yeah, a vote for third party is a vote for Trump. That now these are now blue no matter who people. When 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago they were like anti-Biden, pro-Palestine people. And so it's just kind of, this has done a really good job of separating out like who was actually truly pro-Palestine, anti-capitalist, and like anti-genocide, and who was only doing it for internet clout. And I think that this has kind of done a really good job of separating that, and it's clear who our friends are and who our friends aren't. Yeah. Now that the dust is settled.
Exactly. And that, my friends, is what you call coconut pill.
And then now these leftists have been coconut pilled. Yeah, they've been coconut pilled, and now they're all like, they're jumping on the Harris train, and like, they're not. I'm not a blue no matter who person, but vote for Stein is a vote for Trump.
Yeah,
it's
like, can't put Trump in there.
Yeah, that's blue no matter who, dude. Like you're back to the same old bullshit Democrat talking points about harm reduction, about like, just give us 4 years and we'll push them left or whatever. No, dude. You've been coconut pilled.
I morally just can't vote.
Yeah.
For a party that is pro-Israel.
Yeah, I'm not going to support.
That is my fucking red line.
And like somebody on the internet was saying, like, well, what good does it do? Like, how does voting for Stein or Garcia de la Cruz help the Palestinians? And it's like, well, it might not, but also me choosing Fruit Loops instead of Cinnamon Toast Crunch doesn't help Palestinians, but it also doesn't hurt them. So like, voting for Claudia and Karina may not help the Palestinians, but it doesn't hurt them. But voting for Harris does hurt them, and so like that's actual harm reduction.
Yeah. But what I do have to say though, is the more people that do vote for third parties like Green Party or PSL, they will have larger national recognition.
Yeah.
Yes, we cannot immediately stop, but my vote for PSL won't stop fucking bombs being sent into Gaza. Excuse me. But what it will do is allow for a larger coalition and a larger exposure to other Americans that these other parties exist.
Yeah.
And through that, maybe in 4 years we can do something about Israel. Maybe that in 4 years.
It also sends a very like powerful and like important message in states like Washington or California that Democrats have a lock on, where they've won by 70, 60, 70, 80% in the past, and now they're only winning by 55% because there's so many leftists in Washington and Seattle that like vote for Claudia de la Cruz and Karina Garcia, and it's like, holy shit, we barely won Washington. That state should be like an 80% lock.
Yeah, 100%.
And so if we can get out the vote for these people that are not not these mainline Democrats, that really sends a powerful message of like, holy shit, we are not as stable as we thought we were. So yeah, because obviously Harris is going to win Washington. We live in Seattle, Washington. Harris Walz ticket is going to fucking crush in Washington because it's one of the bluest states. So us voting, and it's also privilege for us to say that we can vote for Karina and Claudia because like, it doesn't really matter. Harris is going to win this state by whatever percentage points. But if she wins it by 10% less than Biden did in 2020, or than Clinton won it in 2016 or whatever, that sends a pretty powerful message, and I think that is important. I think it is kind of performative on the one hand, where it doesn't actually get actual change, but it maybe opens their eyes and be like, oh, these things aren't a lock. You have to kind of listen to leftists when you say like, oh, we don't want we don't want our bombs going to Palestine. We can make this difficult for you.
Yeah, but when you come to performance doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah.
Performance also is basically like an exhibition.
Yeah.
Performance, you put a performance out and people listen.
Yeah.
People watch. And maybe the performance might, over time, maybe it's not gonna be in 4 years, but maybe in 16 years.
Maybe
the Democratic Party might be overturned by some sort of larger party.
Yeah, and I mean, like, most Western countries have multiple parties, and
exactly.
like France and England and all of these like Western capitalist countries have multiple parties that all get like, it's not
10%.
It's not 50% each for two or 49% each for two and then 1% for the other couple. It's it's 10 ways.
Was it like 2021 or 2022? Germany had like 10% 10% of the Germany's votes came from the Communist Party.
Yeah, and like that was the French elections, like a not insignificant chunk, like 7% of them were communists. So
Exactly.
it's like this is how you get there. We want that. If you actually care about democracy, if you actually care about the will of the people being represented equally and equitably across like the political spectrum instead of just one of two capitalist classes, this is how you do that. You vote for parties like PSL or Jill Stein and get that.
Yeah.
It may not move the needle immediately, but it does move the needle, and that's more than you're doing.
Yeah.
Than just bending to the status quo, than just supporting Harris carte blanche, you know?
At the end of the day, we're not revolution is not just gonna come.
Yeah.
Right? Revolution is something that is like an extreme measure that happens when no other choice can be made. But until then, we'll have to play their political game.
Yeah.
But
It
once
also-
the
it is
political
a
game
moral-
is over, it's over. Like that's when you actually pick up your whatever weapon and you start a revolution.
But there is the moral choice in the meantime of not supporting people that support genocide.
Correct.
That's the line. It's a easy. I don't support people that support genocide. I don't support genocidists. I don't think that's a word. But
yeah, the Democratic Party doesn't own you. The Republican Party doesn't own you. They have to convince you, and they have to give you a reason why to vote for them. And
also, not for nothing, but like
it's empowering to not have
to not have
that.
be beholden to them.
Yeah.
Also, like they don't really share your interests at all, right? Like climate change, Democrats have like no real solution to climate change. And that is more nuanced than it sounds because they are pro-capitalist, and like 70% of all emissions in the world are produced by like the same handful of countries, the same handful of companies. And
It's like 10 companies.
the Democratic Party takes donations from those companies, so they're not actually going to do anything like meaningful to like, you know, you can ban all the plastic straws you want, but like that doesn't make Amazon's factories pollute less. So like
yeah, there's
I
an
don't know.
there's an interest in conflict,
Yeah.
conflict of interest.
Yeah, exactly. So like the same, and we talked about this a lot with like abortion care, of like this idea of like a subscription service model, which is what democratic politics is. But it's more sinister than that if you actually start peeling it back of like where their money comes from compared to what your ideals are. So if you support climate change, well, Democrats don't really. You support like, you know, bodily autonomy and healthcare. Well, Democrats really don't. So like, I don't know. At the end of the day, we beat the dead horse, but yeah.
Yeah, but if they did support something like autonomy, they say they support, you know, women's bodily autonomy. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, bodily autonomy.
Bodily autonomy. But at the end of the day, when they're like, "Oh, vote for us so abortion doesn't become illegal," except it did under Joe Biden. They literally the fucking the Roe v. Wade was literally practically abolished under Joe Biden, and now they're telling us vote for us so we can bring it back. I'm like, you're still in office. Like, just do it now. Like, what are you doing? Make an executive order. Do something. You can.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's crazy. It's just crazy because like this is what Trump did. Trump like signed hella executive orders. He got his will on the what he wanted. He got it done when he was in office because that's a power the president have, and just Biden didn't do that, and it's whatever. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But like the counter argument there is that like the next president could just reverse any of those.
Yeah.
But like, so what? So like for the 4 years you're in, you can help those people for 4 straight years. Like it may get overturned when the next guy does it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it now. Because maybe you win the next time.
But here's the thing: if you have an idea. And you've had it for 4 years during your term, and if the idea works, nobody wants that reversed.
Yeah,
the people would go crazy. Imagine you get free healthcare for 4 years.
Yeah,
right. Free healthcare, universal healthcare. Obviously, healthcare isn't free. Blah blah blah. Yes,
yeah, but universal healthcare for 4 years. Yeah.
Yes. After 4 years, if you went back to private healthcare, people would riot.
Yeah.
Are you insane?
So like that's if Harris does get nominated, or excuse me, does get the election, that's what they could do that on day one. Just sign an executive order. Boom. Nationalize, Allstate and Farmers, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. The Blue Cross Blue Shield, those are car insurance.
Allstate,
But my point is that you can nationalize the healthcare industry, the healthcare insurance industry, and provide socialized healthcare. I was looking it up. I was talking to a coworker, not that recently, not that long ago, about like because I was kind of railing against how America is like the only like modernized country that doesn't have universal healthcare, and I was like almost right. There's only a handful of countries of developed countries in the world that don't have modernized healthcare, and America's on that list, and the only other countries on that list,
or right, Burma.
I don't think so. No, but I don't think they were on that list. The only countries on that list were like countries that we bombed into oblivion, like Yemen. It didn't have it. Yeah, okay, like Afghanistan doesn't have socialized healthcare because like there is no medical infrastructure. There is, but like it's not very well developed because we bombed the shit out of it. It's only a handful of countries in the Middle East, and then like a couple of South Africa, which isn't surprising, and then a couple of Eastern African countries that I think are also just kind of like relatively impoverished and like have dealt with American intervention. So yeah,
basically because of colonialism and us just basically drying
imperialism
Africa
and
dry.
intervention. Those are the only countries that don't have socialized healthcare. It's such a universally established, like, obviously you should have healthcare. Like every developed country in the world has universal healthcare except for America.
Yeah,
and like,
you ever seen those videos where British people get asked, "How much do you think Americans pay for?"
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, $20."
An ambulance, an EpiPen, they're like $20.
Yeah,
no,
so
it's like
$8,000. Yeah, I took it. I had to get an ambulance once. It was like $5,000. I was like paying it off until like a couple of years ago. I like it went into collections. Yeah.
Just at that point, it's just like I'm calling an Uber.
Yeah.
And I'm
you hear those stories all the time of people that are injured and they call an Uber because it's like I can't afford an ambulance.
Even if I'm fucking bleeding, if I'm bleeding out, I'm like, brother, I will give you $1,000 to have somebody dry clean these fucking seats. Take me for $50 to the fucking to the hospital. It's 5 times cheaper. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know.